The scorching sun hung low over the bustling streets of Lagos, Nigeria, as Chima, a 12-year-old boy, trudged home from school. His once bright eyes were now dulled by exhaustion and hunger. He lived in a small, cramped apartment with his mother, Amara, and younger sister, Adaora. Chima's life had not always been like this. Just a year ago, his father, Obinna, was the pillar of their family, a hard-working construction worker who dreamt of giving his children a better future. But one fateful morning, everything changed. Obinna had left for work as usual, promising to return in the evening with food. But he never came back. A tragic accident at the construction site claimed his life, leaving his family shattered. The company paid a meager 500,000 naira, about $1,000, as compensation, an amount that barely lasted a few months. With no financial support and no relatives willing to help, Amara was forced into survival mode. Once a devoted housewife, she now had to navigate the harsh reality of Lagos alone. Bills piled up. Rent was overdue. Food became a luxury. At just 12, Chima watched his mother break down night after night, crying silently so that Adaora wouldn't hear. Hunger gnawed at his belly, and the fear of eviction loomed over them. He clenched his fists. This was not how life was supposed to be. The nights in Lagos grew longer, colder, and crueler for Chima and his family. His mother, Amara, took on whatever jobs she could find. Washing clothes for neighbors, scrubbing floors in wealthy homes, even selling roasted plantains on the roadside. But the money was never enough. Rent collectors banged on their door, demanding payment. The landlord threatened to throw them out if they didn't pay by the end of the month. Food became scarce. Chima often went to school with nothing in his stomach, forcing himself to ignore the hunger pangs. But hunger was relentless. It didn't just gnaw at his stomach. It drained his energy, clouded his thoughts, and made every step feel like lifting a boulder. Then came the worst day of all. Chima hadn't eaten in 2 days. His mother had left early for work, promising to bring home something, anything. But until then, there was nothing. No Gary, no rice, not even water left in the pot. At school, his vision blurred. His body trembled from weakness. When the teacher, Mr. Jide, called on him to answer a question, he barely heard it. The classroom spun, his knees buckled, and then darkness. The next thing he knew, he was lying on the classroom floor, his classmates staring down at him in shock. Mr. Jide's voice was the only thing he could hear. "Chima, Chima, can you hear me?" With effort, he opened his eyes, his lips dry and cracked. I'm fine, sir," he mumbled. But Mr. Jide was no fool. He saw the pain, the exhaustion, the desperation in Chima's eyes. He knew something was terribly wrong. Without hesitation, he helped Chima up and led him to the staff room. He handed money to the school janitor. "Run to the market, get food, quickly." Minutes later, a steaming plate of jollof rice and a cold bottle of water were placed in front of Chima. The smell alone made his stomach churn with longing. "Eat, my boy," Mr. Jide said gently. Chima hesitated at first, but hunger won. He devoured the food, feeling strength slowly return to his body. But this was just the beginning, because Mr. Jide was about to change Chima's life forever. What happens next will leave you speechless. Will Mr. Jide help Chima escape his struggles? Stay tuned for the next episode. If you believe in kindness, comment #hope for Chima below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see how this story unfolds. Chima wiped his mouth, his hands still trembling from exhaustion. The jollof rice had never tasted so good. Every bite felt like life returning to his weak body. Across from him, Mr. Jide watched in silence, his heart heavy with emotions. "Chima, how long has it been since you ate?" the teacher asked. The boy hesitated, staring at his empty plate. 2 days, sir," he finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Jide inhaled sharply, his fists clenching. 2 days? How could a child go 2 days without food in a country so rich yet so cruel to its poor? He stood up abruptly. "Come with me." Chima obeyed without question, his legs still shaky. They walked out of the school compound, heading straight to the local market. The smell of roasted suya and fresh fruit filled the air as traders shouted their prices. Mr. Jide wasted no time. He bought bags of rice, beans, gari, yams, milk, sugar, everything a family needed to survive. The shopkeeper, seeing the urgency in his face, quickly packed the items. Chima could barely believe it. "Sir, why are you doing this for me?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Mr. Jide placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Because no child should have to suffer like this." But neither of them knew that this was just the beginning. Because fate had bigger plans for Chima. The night was unusually quiet in Lagos as Chima sat in his tiny home, staring at the sacks of food in disbelief. It felt like a dream, one he feared he would wake up from. But this was real. For the first time in months, he wouldn't go to bed hungry. His mother, Amara, returned home late, her clothes soaked in sweat from a long day of scrubbing floors. The exhaustion on her face was evident, but when she stepped inside and saw the neatly packed bags of food, she froze. "Chima, where did all of this come from?" she asked, her voice filled with confusion and fear. Before Chima could answer, a deep voice spoke from behind him. "It's from me, ma'am." She turned sharply to see Mr. Jide, standing respectfully near the door. Tears welled in her eyes as she realized what had happened. Why would you do this for us?" she whispered, struggling to hold back her emotions. The teacher smiled gently. "Because no mother should have to choose between feeding her children and paying rent. No child should collapse in school from hunger. And no hardworking woman should feel abandoned by society." Overcome with emotion, Amara fell to her knees and wept. She had prayed for a miracle, and today, it had come in the form of a schoolteacher. From that day, Mr. Jide became more than just Chima's teacher. He became his mentor, his protector, and the guiding light that would change his life forever. Fueled by this second chance at life, Chima threw himself into his studies. He excelled in school, winning scholarships and breaking every expectation society had placed on a poor boy from the slums of Lagos. By the time he was 18, he had earned a full scholarship to study abroad in the United Kingdom. As he boarded the plane, leaving behind the streets that once swallowed his dreams, he made a silent vow. "One day, I will return, and I will be the Mr. Jide for someone else." Life is unpredictable, and hardship spares no one. But kindness, true, selfless kindness, can rewrite someone's destiny. Chima's story teaches us that one act of generosity can transform an entire future. It reminds us that we must never turn a blind eye to those in need. Because sometimes, the smallest act of compassion can set off a chain reaction that changes the world.